Hi everyone, welcome again to Module 7 of our Born to Shine Leadership Training and Mentorship Program. I'm Walid and I'll be taking you through this session on monitoring and evaluation. Once again, it's brought to you by Talawa Justice for Women in partnership with the Wellspring Foundation, Gwedji, University of Nottingham, and also we've been doing some work with Elefante in Gulu. So today we're going to be looking at monitoring and evaluation, key performance indicators, monitoring KPIs, key performance indicators, and evaluating your effectiveness or the effectiveness of your project. So, like the dashboard in your car, if you're going on a long journey, then you need to know certain things about your vehicle if you want to get there safely. And so there are all these indicators and lights and warnings. And so some very important ones are your speed, your fuel level, the amount of fuel you have remaining, the temperature of your engine, the oil level. All of these things are important, and without these indicators, you might get stuck along the way. You might have some problems, So similarly, if you want to achieve your objectives, you want to reach your destination as an organization with a particular project, then you have to know certain things about your project to understand how well it's performing or how well you and your team are performing. So will you reach your destination? Monitoring, how do you know if you have achieved your goals? Monitoring and evaluation, M&E, is a systematic process of collecting and analyzing data to assess the effectiveness and impact of projects and programs for evidence-based decision-making and continuous improvement. So it's quite a mouthful there. It can take some time to process it and break it down, but basically it's just telling you how effective you are and helping you to make better decisions. So companies and organizations and governments use dashboards, and the dashboard presents to your leadership these KPIs, these key performance indicators, and tells you how you're doing in terms of your main objectives, which you have to set out, and you have to figure out how are we going to measure these things, because it's not always straightforward. We're going to get into it. So, are you reaching your targets? M&E, why is it important? So, we can measure progress towards your goals, know what's working and what's not, inform your decision-making process, optimize resource fund allocations, improve future projects or interventions, determine success and sustainability, and understand the dynamics, better understand the dynamics. So those are quite important, valuable, useful things. So what are key performance indicators? What are the vital measures that define your work? So in a project like this one by Gwedji, where they're presenting the stories of change, how do you justify, verify, validate? How do you make any claims of change if you don't know what you're measuring, if you haven't set out what these criteria are, what the parameters are? So if you are aiming to change the perception of men, then how would you measure their perception before the project and their perception after? You're aiming to change their behavior, their decision making, how they treat their families, their wives. what are the things that you can measure that are quantifiable, that you can put a number to? Maybe you want to also measure the number of women who are, I don't know, what is a measure of the freedom of a woman whose husbands allow them to work? I don't know if that's such a good indicator. But yeah, let's explore this. So what is changing? How much did it change? So in a lot of these, what do you call them, infomercials, where they're trying to sell you products, they show you a before and an after. So if this man wanted to lose weight, let's say he's 110 kgs and he wants to lose weight, and after he's now 95 kgs, sorry, and just the picture alone tells the story, because that's proof that he has lost weight. You can see it. But there are other measures as well. So before losing weight, maybe he didn't feel so good, or maybe his own views and opinions and perception, his subjective feelings, and afterwards he says, I feel great. But there are also objective or quantifiable measures like the scale. So this measurement on the scale before and the measurement on the scale after tells the story of whether he achieved his goal. So we have quantitative versus qualitative measures. So examples of quantitative measures are: how many people did you help? How many items did you distribute? How much money did you disperse? How many businesses did you kickstart? How many kids are off the streets because of your work? And then qualitative measures. Remember, quantitative is talking about quantity, measurable quantities. Qualitative is talking about quality, and these are not so easy to measure. So, for example, how much did they learn? So it's not something that you can easily measure. If you're in school, then you can measure students' results from year to year, exam results, stuff like that. But when you're working with people, trying to change perceptions and trying to, then how do you measure how much people actually learn? So you can actually test people before and after and score them, but sometimes it's not so easy to design exams for these kind of things, to have question and answer. So are they feeling better? How are you feeling? It's not. You can put a measure to it, like you say, on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you feeling before? How are you feeling after? So it went from a 3 to a 7, and but that's. What's more useful in these qualitative cases is for people to write an explanation, and then you pull together the similarities across all your participants to see if they all had a similar experience. So yeah, it's not necessary to always reduce everything to numbers, but you have to work, and you have to really engage in order to get those valuable, useful descriptions. So how do you measure if people's perceptions changed? Are they treating their wives better? Has their stress level reduced? And then similarly, there's objective versus subjective measures. So what does that mean? What do these terms mean? So objective is something that can be measured by anyone and can be verified, validated by somebody. These are physical quantifiable factors. You can put numbers to them. It's impersonal, not emotional. There are no perceptions and opinions involved. Not influenced by opinions or biases. and can easily be verified, validated by another person. So an objective is similar to quantifiable, but sometimes not really. But like if I ask you to count how many chairs are in the room, and anybody can come, and it's an objective measure because everybody shares the same frame of reference. So subjective is an individual's report of their own experiences. So subjective means me, myself, I. What did I go through? What did I see? What do I feel? What am I thinking? What is my perception? So it's my report, and nobody else knows me from the inside, and so nobody can give an objective assessment on what I think and feel. It's non-physical, intangible factors, personal, emotional, perceptual, influenced by personal opinions or biases, and cannot be verified by another person. So it's not a choice of good and bad. It's not that objective is better than subjective. Sometimes we want to know how people are feeling, how they are affected personally, emotionally, and their opinions and biases are a very important part of the study or the project. Or, so it's just that we have to be aware of these, and we have to kind of balance it and make sure we are not too much on the one side. Between the quantifiable and the quantitative and qualitative, the objective and the subjective. Okay, so cycles of continuous growth. So first you got to select your KPIs, which are the key performance indicators, which are the things that are going to tell you the most about your project or your organization. Then you have to develop the tools. So sometimes it's very easy, but sometimes you like when things are more subjective and qualitative, then you have to think about how do I extract this information before, during, and after, and how are we going to monitor progress. So you have to really plan these things before you start the project so that you can evaluate effectiveness. So you're going to be using those tools to monitor progress and to evaluate your effectiveness. And then, like we said in the beginning with the Aspire model, so you're going to review and you're going to report. You're going to use this data is very useful, very valuable. It's going to go into your report and onto your website and onto your social media and all of these things. So you review the information, and it helps you to make better decisions, and you improve and enhance your project and your work during the project or in the next phase of the project or on another project. And so, all of these stakeholders that we talked about are very interested in your M&E. So, timing is important also, when to collect data. So, in many projects, it's a before and after kind of thing, but in some cases they'll go 3 months before, and then right before the project begins, then during, then immediately after the project, and then again they'll come back after 1 or 3 or 6 months, after 1 or 2 or 3 years. There are some studies that go on, longitudinal studies that have gone on for generations. So it's an interesting study done by, I think it was Harvard, that's looking at what was it looking at? But it's gone on for over 80 years and looked at 3 generations of men. Started with these students, and basically it's like what contributes towards happiness and longevity. Sorry, I think it's longevity, how long a person lives. And they found that it's friendship mainly out of all the factors. But anyways, I digress. So it all depends on the nature of your project and the amount of funding and all of that. So you might want to go for just right before and immediately after. Okay, so what's the approach? How do you collect data? So you can use forms, you can use questionnaires, and it requires a bit of preparation. You put the date, you must have the date and the signature and the location. Well, signature, sometimes you want to have an anonymous questionnaire so that people feel more comfortable to be completely open and honest, frank about their feelings and the information that they're giving. Sometimes it's of a sensitive nature and people wouldn't disclose if they know that their name is going to be attached to this thing. And location, you might want to include the location. And then reporting, integrating your M&E feedback. So this is, like I said, it's valuable information and you want to share it with your funders, with your beneficiaries, with everyone, especially if you're doing a good job and if your project is succeeding. But even if it's not, then it's an opportunity to learn, so we shouldn't hide these values or try to manipulate them. Okay, so we're trying to show the impact of our project, whether it was successful or not, whether it was effective. We achieved our objectives, whether it was beneficial, it helped people. We achieved our goals and targets, and whether it was good, how well you did. So, M&E data to include in your reports, quantitative plus qualitative. Like I said, we want to have a good balance and not be too much on the one side, because that there's that, how do you say? Well, you do have quantitative, okay, anyways. Objective and subjective. So you don't want to have too much subjective data, you want to have enough objective data as well. Also, okay, similarly, you don't want to have too much qualitative only data, you want to have enough quantitative. Statistics and analysis. So you use this information to put together statistics and say this percentage of the people of the members in our group had this kind of reaction or response. So this number of people, this number of kids were reunited with their families. This number of survivors, women survivors, were granted land by their maternal family or by the child's paternal family. Those kind of statistics that you can then give some analysis of. And this enhances your decision making, and you can even talk about how it helped you to guide the direction of your project and your staff. Goals and targets achieved. If you didn't measure, then there's no way for you to really authoritatively say that you have actually reached your goals. Learnings and improvements. You can say what didn't go so well and how you can improve the next time around, and that's going to look very good to your funders. So once again, if you have any questions, please get in touch. This has just been an introductory overview, and there's so much more to get into. We'll do a more detailed video. So if you send me your questions, then I can answer them in the next next training session. We can get more into the nitty-gritties of how do you actually develop these tools. How do you create a before and after questionnaire? So here's a little bit of an exercise for you. Write down the KPIs for your project and create your own monitoring tool, keeping in mind all the things that we've discussed today. Thank you and see you in the next module.